It's week 16 of the golfing calendar. And live from the Australian Golf Centre, home of the PGA of Australia and Golf Australia, former world number 16 Nick O'Hearn and guest co-host covering for Mark Allen and winner of the 1999 Australian Masters, Craig Spence. This is Talk Birdie to Me.
Craig, you're back, mate.
I am.
It's nice to have you here again.
And I'm watching more golf again than I have for 15 years, mate, because I've got to be, not that I'm super polished, as our listeners will find out shortly, but at least I'm watching some golf, which is good.
It's one way to get you back into the game, isn't it? It's funny. Well, you do so much teaching. Probably the last thing you want to do is go watch golf, isn't it?
My wife's away on she's holidaying in Hawaii with her best friend. I've got 2 kids. I'm flat out. I've got to, I'm sucking it up here. But no, good to watch a bit of golf. I actually enjoyed, and I know we're going to talk about it later, but Hilton Head.
It was a lot of fun, wasn't it?
Because there's a lot of sort of vanilla golf courses on the PGA Tour, as you probably would, agree. That is not one of them. That's a special little track.
It sure is. It brings out the artistry in the game again, which is fantastic. And yes, we're going to talk quite a bit about that. And as you can tell, listener, Craig Spence is with me once again on the Talk Birdie to Me podcast. Mark Allen still not here, but he will be back next week. What an exciting week or weekend of golf, by the way, from an Australian point of view, because at one particular point we could have had 3 Australian winners on major tours around the world.
Yep.
We had Grace Kim, first of all. What a win for her, by the way, on the LPGA Tour, playing in Hawaii, the Loti Championship. Don't know how you pronounce that name. It's
First win
on the LPGA Tour. Yeah, she won on the Ep10 Tour last year. And I don't know how much you know about Grace Kim. I never really followed her amateur career because I was still doing certain things, obviously, in the US and when I came back to Australia. But when I got into the TV commentary a couple of years ago, I saw this girl play and I thought, wow, okay, this is something special right here. And then I watched her. She finished runner-up at the Women's PGA at Royal Queensland to Sue O.
Yep.
When they played alongside the men, and her game was just unbelievable. Couldn't quite close it out, which was fine. Sue played some really good golf, and then I saw her in the Australian Open of Victoria just before Christmas, where she had a real chance to win, but again, just faltered at the end. And I was wondering, what's her closing skills going to be like? But then she obviously had a great year on the Epsom Tour, where she won once, had a lot of good finishes, got her card through being top 10, and then in only her 3rd start, she comes through and wins in just dramatic fashion.
Yeah, well, birdie's the last 2 holes and then birdie's the playoff. So you've watched her play a little bit. I haven't seen a lot of her play, of her golf. Mm-hmm. What is it about her game that impressed you? Is she strong tee to green?
Very solid. Probably hits it further than us, which is, well, again...
Not that hard anymore.
But that is true. But, we can still get it out there.
Sure.
Off the tee, it's a beautiful rhythmic swing. I think she's coached by Karen Pullen over in Sydney there. Yep. She's from the Avondale Golf Club, came through the New South Wales High Performance Program and things like that. I think she's on one of the Golf Australia rookie program, or the rookie squad as they call it, so she's getting some nice financial help there. And I've just seen her play. There's really no weakness to her game. That's the funny thing. She's got a very good short game. Her putting is outstanding. We saw that in the final holes and in the playoff especially, because she had to hole 3 clutch putts at the end there. I mean, the birdie she made on 17 played as one of the toughest holes on this golf course, and she fired a 7-iron in there at about 8 feet, straight up the hill, bang, in the hole. A wonderful up and down out of the bunker on 18, which is a reachable par 5. And it wasn't an easy bunker shot too. It was about good 30 metres or so, long bunker shot. Played that out to about 8 or 9 feet again, rolled that in, no hesitation at all. And then in the first playoff hole, she was against Yu Lu and Yu Jin Sung. Yu Lu was from China. Yu Jin Sung was from South Korea. And I think it was the South Korean girl. She was playing on a sponsor's invite.
Right. Oh, wow.
Isn't that amazing?
That's impressive.
To be invited and then all of a sudden get a chance to win the golf tournament.
Yeah.
Just incredible. But in that playoff hole, after her opponents, I guess you could say, they didn't hit great second shots. And then Grace hit the perfect drive, had this 3-wood in, admittedly blocked it.
Yeah.
There's a bit of water out to the right as well. So she said afterwards that it wasn't exactly where I was aiming.
Right.
Left herself a little uphill chip, and I thought, okay, game over right here. But to be honest, she pitched it about 6 foot past and left a bit of work there. But again, the putter just never looked like missing.
Yeah. That's impressive to birdie last 2 and then the playoff. Doesn't happen very often. And some other Aussies did well too.
And when I said earlier that we had 3 Australians with a chance to win on the Korn Ferry Tour, Brett Drewitt took a 5-shot lead into the final round. That was the Veritex Bank Championship at Texas Rangers Golf Club in Arlington. That's interesting. The baseballers. Yeah. My next door neighbour in the US, he used to be the general manager for the Texas Rangers. Yeah.
Did you get tickets?
I used to go to the baseball a bit whenever we were playing. Where were we? The Byron Nelson tournament.
Yes.
Whenever we were there for that, I'd say, hey, John, any chance? And he'd say, no problem, come on over.
Easy.
So, it was great. I
love
watching the baseball. But they tore it up around there. I think Spencer Levine ended up winning, shot at 8 under par 63. But Brett Drewitt had a great chance to win his first tournament over there. Took a 5-shot lead. Unfortunately, just got off to a slow start. Solo second, which was awesome for the 32-year-old New South Welshman. That's his 4th top 5 from 7 starts, and that moves him to number 2 on the Korn Ferry Tour points list. So that is huge for Brett.
They go low on that tour. And so a 5-shot lead sounds like, for the person listening, how do you lose from there? But the reality is, if the putter's not hot, you can't keep up on that tour. They just always shoot 20, 25 under, it seems.
I found the Korn Ferry Tour harder than the PGA Tour. I don't know how you found it, because I would... I
found them both really hard.
Fair call. But, by last year or so on tour over there, because I lost my full playing status.
Yes.
Oh, you're laughing. This is funny. I would shoot 15 under par for 4 rounds on the Korn Ferry Tour, thinking I've played some pretty good golf here.
Yes.
That wouldn't even sniff a top 25.
Absolutely.
It was ridiculous. Whereas if you shoot 8 to 10 under on the PGA Tour, you're top 10. So the thing I found about those guys, and the golf courses weren't that easy.
I'll go you one better.
Okay, go on.
When I lost all status and I'm now playing mini tours in Arizona on the Grey Goose Tour, we rock up and I'm like, this place is tough. 27 under wins. And I'm like 2 under, just grinding up and down. It was a joke. It was an absolute joke. I think it suits some types of players. These golf courses, they're soft, and a bit of, desert on the sides doesn't bother them, and they just go for it.
Yeah, and funny, the mini tours, the secondary tours like Korn Ferry and like Grace Kim came through the Epsom Tour last year. She actually said during her post-round interview that Epsom Tour just gave her some amazing grounding for what lay ahead. Just the week in, week out of organising travel, going to a new venue, different golf course every week and adapting to all that. And year in, year, you do that year in, year out. That's one of the strengths of professional golfers, is you have to adapt every week to a different course that you go to. And you need that grounding almost. Some players that come through qualifying school, for instance, like here in Australia, we have our qualifying school going on at the moment. The second stage is about to start. If you get your card through Q School, that's all well and good, but if you get straight out onto for instance, the PGA Tour, Q School in the US used to get straight out onto the PGA Tour. Now they actually forces you to go to the Korn Ferry Tour first, and I think that's a pretty good way to do it, because you learn so much more about how to become a professional golfer playing the secondary tours, the mini tours. If you get thrust out into the limelight straight away out into the PGA Tour, yes, you get that Cinderella story every now and then, but most of those players that come through Q School, they tend to lose their card and have to go back to the secondary tour anyway.
Nick, can I ask you a question? You said previously that the mini tours, some of the golf on the mini tours is out of this world. And you, Craig, you've said a similar thing right now. Why do some of those players not ever translate up into the PGA level? Why do they not always translate?
One of the things I was going to bring up is Aussies tend to do well when the greens get firmer and the wind gets up a bit and the courses get harder. And Americans, because they grow up in most Americans are sort of not on the coast like we are, or a huge population in middle America. They don't grow up as much wind as we do. And I think they get used to playing shorter courses, not much wind, birdie festival golf. And once it gets harder, like really hard, which the PGA Tour gets that next level, they don't seem to step up as much as, and Aussies, they've always played well in Florida, Aussies, and where the wind blows, lots of winners of the Tournament Players Championship, lots of winners of the Honda. For some reason we always did well when it got harder. What do you think, Nick?
Yeah, I totally agree. The thing about, and someone brought this up, I think, during the week, Monday qualifiers, for instance, that get into PGA Tour events. To get into those PGA Tour events, you have to shoot 7, 8, 9 under at times. They have 4 spots on a Monday to try and get into tournaments. If you do that, you're obviously playing some incredible golf, but that's 18 holes. Now, how many of those Monday qualifiers actually make the cut? It's very rare that anyone makes the cut. They always shoot over par after that. You think, well, why is that? Hang on, they've just gone out and they've shot 8 or 9 under. However, those courses, they know it's a sprint in a way, so your mentality changes in that regard. And in many tours, it's the same.
Yeah.
Pin positions aren't as tough. Golf courses aren't quite as tough. You're playing so aggressively, whereas out on the PGA Tour, the big tours, you have to play a bit more of a strategic, conservative style of play. And the other thing I think that comes along with it is all of a sudden you're surrounded by kind of megastars that you've been watching on TV as well. So it becomes a mental battle in that regard. And whether you belong or not is the biggest thing, I think, to get over.
Absolutely.
I don't know how it was for you when your first year out on tour or whatever, but for me, I stood on the range and I was over in Europe and saw Langer and Faldo and Woosnam and, elite of the elite. And I'm thinking, geez, do I really belong here?
Yeah. One thought I had this week watching at Hilton Head, I stood on the range there. VJ had just won the Masters. He's on my left. Ernie's on my right. And I did have to sort of pinch myself and go, here we are.
Yeah.
Big boys all around. And Ernie was trying to talk VJ into going to the pub and just let's get on it. But VJ didn't want a bar of it.
Didn't want it, yeah. Well, before we get on to Hilton Head, the third Aussie that almost had a win was Kevin Yuan, playing in the International Series Vietnam, which is part of the Asian Tour. Now, if you do well in these international series, that can catapult you onto the Live Golf Tour, and we're going to talk a bit of Live Golf later on, obviously, with the tournament coming up in Adelaide this weekend. Kevin's been playing beautifully over there. He actually had a chance to get in the playoff, but unfortunately missed about a 12-foot birdie putt, and Kieran Vincent ended up winning now. Kieran's brother, Scott, won the Order of Merit last year, so now he is playing Live. So you'll find there's a lot of players going to the Asian Tour right now, I can tell you, and with good reason, because the money's increasing with all the money that Liv's put in over there, and the incentive to get up, obviously, onto the Live Tour is there as well. So 3 incredible performances by Australian golfers around the world there. But let's get on to Harbour Town, the PGA Tour event. First of all, a fantastic finish. I mean, it's a designated event.
Yeah.
$20 million purse. And they've got these elevated events or designated events on the PGA Tour now, obviously, where they want their megastars to go. To start off the week, Rory McIlroy, WD, a big withdrawal. Now, that was a big surprise because part of their rules is you're allowed one elevated or one designated event that you don't have to play. Mm-hmm. You can take a week off. However, I think Rory did it at the start of the week at Kapalua, of the year at Kapalua. Right. He's already done his one. And then obviously the Masters performance missed the cut, and I think he's pulled a bit of a heart muscle, to be honest. And he's WD'd, and I tell you what, he's copping some criticism from fellow players.
Especially when Rahm came out and said the opposite and did the opposite. And he would have equally been absolutely worn out.
Yeah, you can understand in a way.
He would have been really worn out. And look, I remember being on tour for 5 minutes, but blinkers are on. Now that I'm off tour, a bit more mature, a bit more grown up, these guys are so important. What Rahm did this week, whilst it doesn't seem like much, it's a huge thing that he did playing through. It's not. Don't get me wrong. It's not curing cancer or anything, but it's a huge thing for the young guys in that area. People that had already booked tickets, had booked hotels because they wanted to see him, and it was an awesome effort. So I think it made Rory look a little bit ordinary. Although Rory's probably got some brownie points with the PGA Tour over the last 12 months because he's been there talking.
Yep.
Man,
he's been the stand-in commissioner basically, yeah. But at the same time, Rory, he was the one that advocated for these designated events, elevated, gets to get all the best players playing in the same tournaments together. He had a week off before the Masters, misses the cut at the Masters, and all of a sudden he goes, oh, no. And the thing is, he's only going to play probably 2 out of the next 5 or 6 weeks, and one of those will be the PGA Championship, a major, and the other one probably is the Wells Fargo in Charlotte. So he's not going to be playing a lot of golf.
No.
It was pretty poor form from what I saw from him, and very surprising. And I'm sure in a week or so he will come out and say, look, I did it. I probably shouldn't have. And maybe there were some personal reasons for it. I don't know. But the thing is, he never actually gave an explanation.
No, he didn't.
Apparently, he's taking a $3 million hit as far as the fine goes from the PIP money at the end of the year. But again, that's bonus money.
Right. So it's not yours.
And again, $3 million doesn't mean a lot to Rory McIlroy, I don't think, because he's worth, I don't know what he's worth now. He'd be close to $1 billion, I would imagine. Who knows? It's definitely well into the hundreds of millions, you would think, given the contracts and everything he's been doing. But that was a pretty tough start to the week. And, fellow players like Xander Schauffele, Joel Damon and Rahm with his comments made him look pretty bad amongst his fellow players. However, it was a fantastic golf tournament.
It was.
There was a couple of things, again, went on from the previous week at the Masters, a bit of slow play issues from, our number one candidate, Patrick Cantlay.
Yep.
That may be my top 5 a bit later on as well. I'm going to go into that a bit. But
Schauffele.
Xander.
Mm-hmm. That thumb twitch, that he takes about 15 thumb goes before he pulls the so he's got a trigger with the right thumb. And I just can't watch it. It's just... So for you, I think Patrick Cantlay's on your hit list.
Oh, it's brutal. Well, the problem
there's a few of them out there.
Oh, there is. And look, Spieth is a slow player as well, but he's fascinating to watch in a way because the conversation he's got going with his caddy. But yeah, and there was one shot, I think it was on 14 on the back nine where actually they had Rahm doing some of the commentary because they and you talk about being worn out. He was great.
It's good.
I mean, he's won the Masters. He's come and played the tournament, and then they've gone, can you come back and, talk
do
for
10
a while?
minutes on the
I mean, talk
booth.
about, going to get tired. But
he was very good,
He was great, yeah. And he spoke about, he could have buried Cantlay there as well because he played behind him in the group at the Masters in the final round. But he didn't, and he said, this is what's going to happen on the chip shots, did a great thing. But Cantlay almost chips it into the water, stays up between the wooden posts.
Yes.
And then it took him about 4 or 5 minutes to hit this next shot.
Yeah.
Now, we've been talking about slow play a little bit last week, but something needs to be done because think about it this way. I think quicker play is a skill. If you think about every other sport like the NFL quarterback, for instance, Tom Brady, one of the reasons he's so great is because he can make decisions in a split second.
Yep.
And that's part of the skill of being good at whatever you're doing. Same goes now in basketball, they have a shot clock. Baseball, they've brought in a shot clock for the pitcher because they're trying to speed up the games.
Yep.
Tennis, same thing with the serving. We need to do something in golf in that regard, I think, because it's getting beyond a joke. Because, as you said earlier, you couldn't watch Xander Schauffele hit a ball. I can't watch whenever Cantlay gets on the tee, I think, well, I've got a good 30 seconds here to just do something else, and then I'll just wander back and have a look. And sure enough, he hasn't hit it. No, there he is again. I mean, the TV coverage, what they should start doing, or maybe they used to do it, was they kind of know what's going to happen. They should just cut to him just as he pulls the club away.
What should they do, though? What can they do? The reality is they've never really they've always threatened, but they've never followed through. They've never pinned them.
Yeah.
And it can't be fines. Fines don't bother these guys.
No, it's got to be stroke penalties.
Yeah.
Now, there's 2 ways they can go about it. I think the rules officials have to be tougher, and they have to get a rules official with every group, give them the warning, and then go, right, if you do it again, you're going to get a stroke penalty. Or I'd love to see them bring in a shot clock for every group. They did it in the European event a couple of years ago and you could see players looking over going, oh, geez, I better hit this ball. Now, the rules are at the moment 40 seconds to hit a ball if you're the first player, 50 seconds for the second. I wouldn't actually mind if they extended that out to 50 seconds and a minute, and then they had a shot clock there for the players, and then all of a sudden that would become part of it. Because in tennis, I know when I watch tennis, if I'm watching it live, I'm looking over at the clock going, oh, if he just takes a couple extra bounces here, he's gone. I think that had added an amazing element to it, and it'd be something for the viewers as well. And the other thing is, it's a bloody split up play.
Yes.
Because it's horrible watching it sometimes. I hate to say it.
Could you make it a group thing? They've got to finish the hole, or they've got to get through the front 9 in a certain amount of minutes, or the group are issued with a penalty. I mean, that might be difficult because, well, if the whole field's slow, they're all getting a shot penalty through 9. I don't know.
Well, that's not going to matter then, is it?
No.
The other thing, I think they should start naming and shaming them, right? Naming and shaming. Like have a stat, slowest players on tour, put it up on the coverage. I think that'd be fantastic.
Yeah, I do too.
If you're doing a group thing, you wouldn't want to be partnered with Cantlay, would you?
Well, it'd get ugly out there. They'd start abusing each other. That's what had happened.
Yeah. Well, I had Spieth and Cantlay in the same group, so that was. I mean, Fitzpatrick. he was. I don't know if you saw Billy Foster, his caddy, but there's a couple of cuts there on the coverage where he's got his hand on his chin and he's yawning and he's just going. Well, I won't. You know exactly what he's thinking, but it was something like, "Oh, bugger me! Gee, this is just horrific." And I felt for Fitzpatrick because he's a very fast player, and the way he came through at the end. Because let's get back to the tournament, how it all unfolded. Spieth played the front nine beautifully. Played a really good front nine. He's had a couple of shot lead there, I think, midway through the back nine, and then all of a sudden, Fitzpatrick birdies 15 and 16 to draw level.
Yep.
Had a real good chance on 17.
Great shot into 17.
I tell you, that pin on 17, they had it back in the left-hand corner, and he's hit it left of the pin. I can guarantee he's pulled that about 20 feet.
Well, if you remember, Rahm said it literally looks like they cut that pin in the bunker.
It's levitating.
And that's what TV doesn't give you. TV doesn't give you the difficulty of the pins they play on the PGA Tour. They really do. It's tight. It's super tight. And that tee box is a little bit lower than the green height. You got the wind. It's finally come out of the trees. It's really only your second shot. You're out amongst the wind again. And that pin must have looked awfully scary to go at. And he did it, he did it again in the playoff too, didn't he?
Playoff, he had another great shot. And Spieth, he had a couple of chances. I mean,
what about those putts?
Well, he held a really good putt in regulation to get into the playoff, about a 6-footer for par. And then that first one, I mean, I thought that was in. Nance was calling it. You could see him calling it on the coverage.
Yeah.
Missed it. And then the next hole, he had another good chance as well. And the shot that Fitzy hit into the third playoff hole in 18, I mean, that's one of the shots of the year. And it was a 9-iron again like he did at the US Open.
I want to ask you a question. For our listeners who probably choke over putts to win matches for, against their mates or to shoot a good round coming down the stretch. Jordan Spieth has one of the best putting strokes, I think, out there. It looks super smooth and he's a great putter under pressure. If you had to watch what he was doing down the stretch, he'd get over it and he'd shake his shoulders out, he'd shake his arms out. He did it several times, especially as the pressure built. How would you handle pressure when you're putting? Those 4-footers down the hill, right to left for you, left to right. What would you do differently under pressure? I'm talking when you're nervous, your hands are a little bit shaking. What would you do differently when you're putting?
Nothing.
Okay.
That's the thing.
You've stuffed that up for me, haven't you? haven't learned a thing there.
No, but that's the secret though. Don't do anything differently than what you normally do. Tiger Woods was the best at it. If you ask him, what do you do differently when the pressure's on at the most, and he would say, nothing, I do it as though it's just a regular putt.
Yep.
Whereas if you build it up into your mind to be something else, then all of a sudden that's when the tension creeps in and things like that. I mean, breathing beforehand is really important because you want to be as relaxed as you possibly can. Putting especially, if your hands are shaking and things like that, which we've all had shaking hands, but the more tension you have on that putter grip, the tougher it is to put a good stroke on it. So soft hands is really important. So before you get over the ball, I think breathing and just trying to relax the body is a real key. But then once you're over it, you've got to have a good routine.
Yeah.
And it's that last look at the hole, bring your eyes back to the ball, start the stroke. That's really important to make that as consistent as possible. If you stare at the ball for a very long time, that gets tough. Funnily enough with Spieth, I don't know if you've noticed, but when he has those shorter putts, anything within 3 or 4 feet, he looks at the hole. He doesn't look at the ball. Anything over 4 or 5 feet, he's looking at the ball. That's something interesting, I think, for everyone to try.
It is.
As well on those pressure putts from shorter range.
So for me, you went from nothing changes, which is fair enough, but really you've highlighted 3 things. Soft hands, which is really important under pressure. If you've got breathing through it and focus your mind on the target. Whereas most people would have tight hands, worry about their putting stroke, watch the putter go back, and then go, don't miss. Seriously, that's what people will do.
Yeah.
But for everyone out there, give this a chance to work. Try this under pressure. It'll help you.
Oh, absolutely. And I putted my best when I didn't care if I made or missed the putt. Very, very difficult mindset to get into in that regard. So it's all about process rather than result. So maybe that's a masterclass for another time. We're going to do a different masterclass later on. But what a finish by Fitz. I mean, that 9-iron he hit. I mean, he's loving his 9-iron at the moment. He hit that 9-iron fairway bunker shot at the US Open to win last year. 9-iron to about, 6 inches? Something like that. And and he said, he's been going there ever since he's 6 years old with his family. So, and Hilton Head, I mean, if you ever get the chance to go over there, you've played there obviously, but to the listener out there, if you ever get the chance, it is a wonderful town. And South Carolina people there, they're just hospitality's incredible. I remember the caddies one year, they took the mickey out of a lot of the local people because the dress over there, I don't know if you remember, you go to like the seafood places and they've got the smashed crabs going and all this, but the dress was the boat shoes. You remember the loafers?
Yes.
No socks, the tartan shorts or the pleated, what do you call it, pleated shorts, long sleeve shirt of some sort, and then the jumper draped over the shoulder. I think Mark Allen might be good at this sort of a look, actually, where the sleeves come over. And then you've got the aviators or the Ray-Bans or whatever. And the caddies one year, they went to a local restaurant. There was about 10 of them all dressed up identically just to take the mickey out of the local scene. Now, probably the locals said, oh, well, that's natural, but all the golfers that were in the restaurant, they couldn't stop themselves from laughing.
It is pretty crazy.
Righto, okay, we have got to talk Live Adelaide coming up shortly, but for now we're going to go to the turn, have a bit of a beverage, a sandwich or something. What's your favourite, Craig, after 9 holes?
Beverage?
Well, yeah. What do you
During
recharge?
a tournament or these days?
Take your pick.
Probably a Corona or a Heineken.
I think we talked about that last week, didn't we? Yeah, that's fair enough. But what if you were playing a tournament?
Well, I'd be just drinking water and Gatorade.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah,
fair enough.
Which is boring.
Yeah, very.
You know?
Let's go with the Corona.
And I'd be going bananas and trail mix all the way around.
All right. Well, we're making the turn, and we'll be back with more after this.
You're listening to Nick O'Hearn and guest co-host Craig Spence. If you're enjoying the pod, share it with a friend and help spread the word. This is the Talk Birdie to Me podcast.
Okay, so we've made the turn and we're on to the back nine. Craig, I don't know if you were following social media. I know you're not a big social media guy, but Greg Norman was making some rounds the last few days.
He was everywhere. I am at social media. I don't post anything. It's my introverted... But yeah, he was everywhere. Fifth West, Royal Melbourne. He's an honorary member there.
Yep.
So that was fantastic. Nearly holes it.
I saw it almost hit the pin.
Hits the pin.
I was up at Cathedral on, I think it was Friday, and I walk into the locker room. There he is, Greg Norman, the great man who designed the golf course, Cathedral. Had a bit of a chat about all things Live coming up in Adelaide, and it was a lot of fun to see. I haven't seen him in a long time. I tell you what, he's fit.
What'd you talk about?
Oh, just... how's it all going?
Yeah.
And he said, it's fantastic. It's going great. Obviously, he's going to say that as the CEO of Live Golf. And I said, well, I'll see you there in Adelaide because I'm going to be doing the radio for SEN on the weekend, which will be a bit of fun.
Great.
What are your thoughts on the whole Live Golf thing? I mean, it's caused such a divide in golf at the moment.
It has. I've enjoyed aspects of it for sure. I mean, for instance, we've been starved of the best players in this country. We've been lucky to have the President's Cup here once every, 10 years or 8 to 10 years. And I was just looking through the list, It's unbelievable, really. We haven't had a field like this with DeChambeau and Sergio and Brandon Grace and Charles Howell III and Dustin Johnson. I could just keep going. Phil Mickelson, obviously. Brooks Koepka. We've just got some of the best players in the world are going to be in Adelaide. They wouldn't be in Adelaide if it were not for Live. Now, if we could get to a place where the Live does stand the test of time, which we don't know yet, and are able to come down and spread their schedule out a bit longer and stay for 2 or 3 weeks. Imagine getting a field like this for 2 to 3 weeks every single year. It'd be a game changer in some ways. It'd be great for young blokes to be able to go, hey, I'm going to either Adelaide, Sydney or Melbourne, wherever they tend to play, and look at the best players in the world, and it can't be a bad thing, could it?
No, I'm actually looking forward. I mean, people have often asked me about Live. What do you think? And I follow my star sign. I'm a Libra, right? So I'm a scales. So you got to balance the scales.
Yes.
And I sit in the middle. I'm like, well, obviously played the PGA Tour and been a PGA member for a long time, and so I see, the traditional side of the game. I love the 72-hole format and everything. The Live format, I'm not that enamoured with. The 54 holes, the shotgun, whatever.
Yeah.
It's not my cup of tea. But at the same time, I don't blame the players for doing what they've done, especially players like Mark Leishman.
Yep.
His best golf's behind him. He knows that, and he can set up his family for a long, long time. Cam Smith was one that surprised me.
Yes.
Given he was in the prime of his career, and time will tell what sort of effect that will have on him going forward. Obviously, this season hasn't been the best for him. But this event coming up in Adelaide, I think for Australian golf, for kids getting into the game, to be able to get up close and personal and see these players, I think it'll be fascinating. And some of my friends that I've spoken to, they're going. I mean, they're flying over and they're going to go have a look. And I'm interested to see how it all goes. As far as I heard, they've got a bit of a party hole, or they're calling it the watering hole. They're playing it at the Grange Golf Course. It's going to be a composite of the East and the West, and Grange is a great track.
It is a great track.
Really, really good.
I was just thinking, these guys play a lot of the same style courses. Even when they travel overseas, they tend to go, if they go through Asia, they tend to be golf courses that have been designed by Americans, very similar type of American golf courses. They come to Australia, they're going to get Australian golf courses, and I think they'll love it. And the Grange is going to set up beautifully. I don't know what the weather forecast, I haven't even looked at it. Hopefully it's not too bad. Hopefully they don't get that squally, cold southerlies coming up. But they're going to have to be straight off the tee. It's not an easy golf course off the tee from what I remember. Aspects of it are wider, but there's some tight holes there. Small greens, small traditional greens. So it's going to be a good test for those guys. They're going to have to bring every aspect of their game.
Yeah, I remember playing some Pro-Ams there. I've never played a big event there. I think it was the site of where Norman won his first professional tournament back in the late 70s. Westlakes Classic, yes, exactly. And they've held a couple of Women's Australian Opens there in the last 7 or 8 years, I believe. So the course is going to be something I think the Americans especially and the international players will really remember. I know, when players like Tiger Woods and that come down here, they just love seeing the Aussie style of golf. And the Grange almost has a bit of a sandbeltish type feel to it in some way, I think. Especially the greens and the bunkering. Not as wide off the tee as to what some of the courses we have here in Melbourne. But overall, who knows what's going to happen? And then they're going to have, 50 to 60,000 people out there. Apparently they've sold all the tickets. I don't know if that's true or not, but you get that amount of people on the golf course over 3 days, not 4. We're in for quite a spectacle, I'd say.
I just checked the weather for you guys. Friday, Saturday, Sunday, 21, 22, 24, no rain, light winds, sunny.
That is awesome. You brought up a good point. I think that Adelaide is the most like the sandbelt outside of Melbourne. Because Sydney is definitely not. A lot more kikuyu grass up there. But Adelaide, you get on Royal Adelaide, you get on Kooyonga, Grange, you get that same bouncy, strategic, you have to sort of be able to play the ball low, fade it in the right shape into the greens, work the tee shots both ways. Very sandbelty. I think maybe Karrinyup in Perth is similar, and I'm jumping off track here a little bit. But what I'm excited about is, even though it's not going to be in Melbourne, because I love showcasing, sandbelt golf, it's as good as virtually. It'll be huge.
Yeah, there's 4 great courses I think in Adelaide. You've got Royal Adelaide, obviously, Kooyonga, another the Grange, which has the 2, and then Glenelga's meant to be very, very good. I've been a long time since I've played there, but it's going to be a fascinating week, and to see this calibre of field come down and entertain everyone, because it's going to be more of a party, really. I mean, that's the whole style of golf. What do they call it? Golf but louder?
Yes,
they
do.
The music. I mean, the young people, I think they're going to have a blast.
How do you think? Because golf has had a real, as we know from COVID, it's gone off the charts, really, in terms of participation. How do you think the media are going to pick up on the event this week? How big do you think it's going to be?
Ooh, that is an interesting one, because I think media-wise it'll be massive. I really do. Obviously the PGA Tour in the US, they're the ones that have sort of been not in favour of all this that's going on. The PGA of Australia here, well, then they're staying fairly silent on it. I'm not exactly sure what their position is one way or the other, but, they obviously, because they have the strategic alliance with or the partnership with the PGA Tour, they're probably in their sort of footsteps as well. So from their side of things, it'll be fairly quiet. But I think from the general public and the people that just want to see good golf played by great players, I think it should be front page and back page, to be honest. It's been a big couple of weeks for Adelaide with the football too over the weekend. I mean, they're just having a blast over there at the moment, aren't they?
They are.
It's just brilliant.
Yeah, the gather round was great.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Righto, time for the top 5. And this week, in honour of our slower players out on tour, and Patrick Cantlay that we watched on the weekend, I've gone for the top 5 slowest players. Now, it's kind of ones that I've played with, but I've got one in here that I haven't, mainly because it's a woman golfer who I've seen, and it kind of drives me nuts to watch her. So, starting at number 5, I hate to say it, but it is Jordan Spieth, because he is one of the slowest players out there. However, he's one of my favourite slowest players to watch, because the conversation he has with his caddy, Michael Grella, is just fascinating. And in the playoff, I think it was on the, might have been the final playoff hole, he took about 2 minutes to hit the shot, because he was, minute 30 of that was talking to his caddy. And then once he gets over the ball, it's like 4 or 5 looks up at the target, and he's taken a while to do it. So he's a tough one to watch. But at the same time, he's not a bad slow player.
Yeah. He's one of the more interesting guys out there these days. Yeah.
I'm going to ask who one of your slow players is too shortly, Craig. So
okay,
number 4. This is, JB Holmes. I don't know if you remember JB, very, very long hitter. Once he was over the ball, he was very quick. However, he would take about 13 practice swings, whether it was a drive or a chip or something. My goodness, it used to drive me nuts. And I don't know if you remember, he played Torrey Pines one year, and in the final group, I think he took about 2.5 minutes to hit a shot where he laid up. I mean, it was one of the most ridiculous things you've ever seen, and it was horrible. If it had went for the green, you might go, okay, but yeah, it wasn't good. That's number 4. Is that what I said? Number 4, yep. Next on the list, my number 3 plays on the LPGA Tour. She has been out for medical issues, but she's back now playing, I believe, Danielle Kang. I don't know if you've seen Danielle play, but my goodness, she's slow. Very tough to watch on the coverage from my perspective. She's one of the players that has the line on the ball, and sometimes it takes 3 or 4 goes to line it up on the green, and oh my goodness. And yeah, that's a tough one for me. So sorry, Danielle, but when I'm watching golf with you on it, I tend to look away for a while until I know you're probably going to hit the ball. She was number 3. Number 2 is, he made the top 5. He was number 1 last week, actually, on the over 50s, was Bernard Langer.
Yes.
Bernard can take some time.
2 weeks in a row for old Bernard. He's doing well.
Yeah. It was good last week, but this is not a top 5 you really want to make. But he loves
He's an anchorer last week. It is.
Yeah, he anchored the putter, and maybe we'll do a top 5 anchoring. But no, he's one of the slowest players out on tour. Has to go over every number, every stat before he hits a golf shot, and it's tough to watch. And of course, who could number 1 be? None other than Mr. Patrick Cantlay. Yeah, I saw. I think on the 9th green of the tournament, he took over a minute to hit a 4-foot putt. He got over it, and then he had to back away and then restart. And my goodness, it was tough to watch. But no surprises there with Mr. Cantlay. And he posted on Twitter during the week. He had a hole in one. And he got a fair bit of criticism last week from the Masters. So he had a hole-in-one on the 7th hole, might have been on the Thursday or Friday, and he posted on Twitter, hey, I'm trying to speed up the game.
Nice.
But I think he might cop a
get
bit
a few
more
likes.
after. Well, it would have. So he sort of knew tongue-in-cheek that he might be a bit slower, but tell you what, it didn't help him on the weekend. So there's my number 1. Craig, you got any?
I got one, I think.
All right, fire away.
From a while back.
Mm-hmm.
Do you remember when, was it Ben Crane?
Oh, yes. Yeah.
And Rory Sabatini, they almost came to blows about 5 times. But Ben Crane was very methodical, wasn't he? And he was driving everyone nuts. He was a shocker. Yeah. And he also wore that huge hat, which didn't really come off very well. So
no, that's true.
Yeah, I'd have to throw him in.
Yeah, there's another guy, Glenn Day, as well. They used to call him Glenn All Day because he took all day to play.
I like that.
Okay, so that's our top 5 for this week. I would love to hear anyone I might have missed or Craig might have missed on the socials. Please let us know. And now it's time for our masterclass. Okay, the masterclass this week, it really is, I guess you could say, about Matt Fitzpatrick and his shot into the final hole. And the thing that really I did notice was how once he gets over the ball, he fires straight away. He reacts to the target. The thing about golf, I find, is it's one of the toughest sports mentally because the ball isn't moving. It just sits there. Most other sports, the ball is moving. Football, baseball, basketball, tennis, you name it. So players are able to react to the ball. Now in golf, because it just sits there, well, it's hard to react. And I think what you need to do is whether you're hitting a putt or a chip or a tee shot, an iron shot, whatever, after you take your last look up at the target, as soon as you bring the eyes back to the ball, try and start your swing or your stroke straight away. The more you delay there, the more you just stare at the golf ball, that's when the doubts can creep in and you start overthinking. So as you take your last look, bring your eyes back to the ball, start your swing straight away, and that will, number one, improve your rhythm to your swing or your stroke and your putting. And it'll also, because there's no real thoughts going on, you're reacting, you'll make a much more committed swing or stroke.
How would you recommend someone start to practice that? Because a lot of people, they would feel like they're rushing on the golf course. How do they go to the driving range, practice it there first, have a look out to the red flag or whatever you're aiming at, bring your eyes back to the ball, pull the trigger fairly quickly.
Yes, absolutely. A good way to practice it is actually start your swing or putting stroke, whatever you're working on, before your eyes arrive.
Yes.
So as your eyes are coming back.
That takes practice though.
Well, you can just start by doing it. Just go, oh, okay, I'm looking up, yeah. And as your eyes are coming back, you haven't spotted the ball, just start the backswing.
Yep.
And what you'll find is your eyes will locate the ball very quickly and then you'll just swing through. You might surprise yourself. I think you'll putt better for sure because there's a lot less thinking going on. The full swing, it might take some tweaking, but I wouldn't actually do that out on the golf course. That's just a practice drill, but that's one way to get you starting your swing much sooner. And it will kind of get rid of all those extra thoughts that you have while you're staring at the ball.
Beautiful.
All right, so there it is. That's our masterclass for this week. Thank you, Craig, for coming in. I'm going
Good to be in.
Shoot out the video on the socials of that masterclass. But, mate, it's always great to have you here and to chat, and look forward to you watching more golf down the line.
I want to see you on the weekend or listen to you on the weekend, and it'll be interesting to see how it goes. Thanks for having me in again.
Thanks, mate.
Live from the Australian Golf Centre, home of the PGA of Australia and Golf Australia, that was Nick O'Hearn and Mark Allen's podcast, Talk Birdie to Me, with our special guest co-host today, Craig Spence, 14-year touring pro and winner of the 1999 Australian Masters. That's not bad. Talk Birdie to Me's executive producer is Dan Bradley at Kaizen Media. Sound design by Daryl